In the latest episode of Ragdoll, Emily and Nathan decide to take a page out of Thomas's playbook in terms of having something elaborate done in order to protect the latest person on the hit list. And as they do this, somebody from Lake's past comes into play. So, topic one is a blast from the past, and it focuses on both Nathan's investigation and us meeting Lake's ex-girlfriend Hannah. Now, starting with Lake, we find out that despite her kind of having this vibe that she was a victim or else that she was abandoned when she went to the UK, it seems like it was in the reverse. The way it's implied when it comes to us meeting Hannah, Lake is kind of a notorious liar in a way, and she also seems to be the type who cuts and runs, which makes you wonder when it comes to everything she's told Emily thus far, is it her trying to paint a picture of somebody who she's not? And also kind of makes you wonder, when they did a background check on Emily, not on Emily, when they did a background check on Lake, did they find anything suspicious that they kind of let go for the sake of their quota? Switching over to Nathan. He finds Kate, who works in the kitchen somewhere, and she has really no desire to talk about what happened to Adam or DeFost. But later on in the episode, as she seemingly is ready to get the hell out of Dodge because associated with Nathan means death, she pretty much details everything Nathan needs to know about what DeFost looks like, and it seems, as was said in the last episode, she might be the only person who's seen DeFost's face, and now that face is DeFost's body, and that could possibly lead to a conviction, but let's not forget, DeFost's description can pretty much describe anybody, either in England or in America. Topic 2 deals with what happens behind the scenes when DeFost isn't trying to kill people. As we were made aware before, he likes to do some type of war reenactments. He seems to have some type of grasp on art and also how to cut open a hand very delicately. But we also find out that a woman named Joy, who's one of Andrea's hairdressers, she may or may not be his girlfriend or his mother. Somebody who is close to him enough where they'll put their finger in his nose when there's a nosebleed and worry about him. It's all very weird, but considering what DeFost does on a regular basis, is it as weird as it could be? So, topic 3 deals with the elaborate plan that Emily and Nathan comes up with in order to protect the latest person who's a target, which is Matthew, who was the judge that called the mistrial for Mark Cooper. Now, the idea was originally, when it came to Nathan and Emily, they were going to have it look like Matthew got shot and he died. Andrea got brought into this, and she's supposed to report that Matthew's died, and while that's happening, all that chaos and whatever, Matthew's going to get dragged back into the house and eventually taken to a safe house. But despite how paranoid Matthew was, since he knew how far down he was on the list, DeFost still gets to him. It seems, once again, DeFost taps the house. And even to show you how it's kind of weird how much DeFost, aka Thomas, is doing seemingly on his own for this situation. Because with Matthew, not only does he tap the house, he also figures out a way to deep fake Emily and Nathan's phones in order to get them out the house so that he can come in, replace the blood packets that Nathan had set up with sulfuric acid, and make it so Nathan can bring out Matthew, have those things explode, and then we see something that's unfortunately too graphic for me to show you on YouTube, but let's just say his face burns out. You can see his inner cavities. I mean, it's a really gruesome death, which, funny enough, Lake possibly could have stopped because DeFost got a little bit messy on this one. Because he had to actually go to the location of the death, he encountered a police officer who he had to strangle to death in order to continue what he's doing. And Lake, while she's in the car having weird flashbacks about somebody in the trunk of her vehicle when she's driving off somewhere, which is a story within itself, she does see that the back gate door is open, so there is a chance that she could have caught Thomas either before or after the act, but unfortunately, Emily told her to stay in the car, so she stayed in the car rather than, like last time, getting out the car and possibly. Well, she didn't save the last victim, but she did at least save Emily from getting really hurt. But unfortunately, this time around, there's nothing Lake can really do to help Emily, and even Nathan, who kind of wants to take the blame for Matthew dying, it's not happening. Emily is forced to take the blame, but because she's a black woman, pretty much her bosses say, we can't really punish you publicly, so instead, while you still have your title, you will not have the power and authority that comes with it. Which, long term, is not clear what that means. All we know for now is that Emily has her title, is very pissed that there's no consequences for the actions of her going this far. And it's hard to say when it comes to future investigations whether she, Nathan, or even Lake for that matter, will be involved anymore, since at this point it's about 4 or so people who died in a week, the episode says. So with that kind of record, you would think they're going to switch things up. When it comes to highlights, one of the top ones for this episode is just how elaborate the kills are when it comes to Thomas. He as a character is going to be mentioned in the on the fence section, but in terms of what he does under the Faust label, it really makes you think about, especially because he's escalating things each time, what's going to happen with Nathan? Like, what is this grand plan he has for Nathan when it's his time to get killed by the Faust? And it's hard to even fathom what it could be, since each time, whether it's Mark's brother losing his neck, the whole Ragdoll situation, what could it be when it comes to Nathan at this point? Is he going to have him publicly strewn up at the courthouse, or what? So, the second highlight is the questionable relationships. Though I didn't really go much into it on the recap, there still is this weird thing with Nathan and Emily which makes you wonder. As much as in a professional manner Nathan is disrespectful toward Emily, which includes him not talking to her about meeting Kate and all that information, at the same time you can see him willing to take the blame for all that happened. There's something there. I don't know if it's because she used to be one of his underlings, so he can't kind of get past the power dynamic shift, or if it's because he truly cares for her in a way beyond work. Their relationship continues to be confusing in a way that I think even Emily's confused by at this point. And then when it comes to Lake, it's just, I feel like she's hiding something, and I don't know if she's being blatant about it with us by trying to redirect us to focus on Nate. For with us seeing that weird vision of her having somebody in the trunk of her car while she's speeding off somewhere, or her, as soon as things kind of died down with the Matthew situation, her trying to direct Emily's attention to Nate, making it seem like he's an accomplice, it makes you wonder, maybe she's an accomplice, which I think I might have mentioned in a previous video, but that was under the assumption maybe that the Faust or somebody killed her ex, but her ex is alive and well, and as noted before, the narrative that that Lake had before kind of pushed the idea that she was kind of abandoned, possibly from being too annoying, or just was kind of like left in the UK without anybody but her ex that she knows of. But with the way Hannah speaks, you're kind of pushed to wonder, of all the things that Lake have said to us thus far, how much of it was for appearances, maybe so that she can be on the end and know what's going on, versus her being true and possibly just a girl who came to the UK looking for love and found nothing but a new job that apparently, when it comes to Hannah, she's not even proud enough of to say she's in it. So for the on the fence, like the highlights are 2 topics here. The first one we're going to go into is how Emily's being handled, For as much as we do appreciate them, recognizing that she is a black woman and everything that comes with that, when it comes to her boss talking about the logistics of actually punishing her and there being consequences for her actions, it kind of makes you feel a little weird about it. Because now, it does seem like they're leaning just a little bit too heavy on othering Emily rather than having her be a whole person. But hopefully, considering she talks about how her family has kind of side-eyed her since she wasn't able to save that kid and her being a cop, maybe the next episode we might get to meet them and kind of get a vibe of who she is outside of her job. Something that I feel like Lake has done through talking about her life so much, that we've got with Nathan to a certain degree. Scratch that. With Nathan, I think he's mostly about his job too, but at least when he talks about the psychiatric hospital, making friends with Joel and stuff like that, you feel like he's had a life outside of just doing this one investigation. Emily, her storyline pretty much revolves around work. It revolves around her being Nathan's underling and now being Nathan's boss and now the Ragdoll killer and also this hit list. So hopefully in the next episode with them briefly talking about her family, we may actually get to meet them and further her plot along in development. The second on the fence topic would be Thomas, and I genuinely wish that they did not reveal his face and who he is, and they really kind of stretched out that investigation more. For seeing him with Joy and then him running in there in order to get this job done, it just keeps chipping away at what made him interesting in the first place. And to make matters worse, something I should have mentioned in the recap, he, after all is said and done, he calls Nathan to brag about what he did. It just ruins the mystique of the character altogether, because now he's just this cocky dude instead of this weirdo who's mysterious and has reasons we don't understand for doing all this. And I'll put it to you this way. At this point, we're maybe about halfway through the season, and I feel like it's just going downhill from here. Because there's less and less to kind of praise or be like happy about or stuff to recommend, because what's left at this point? The farce is Thomas, and he's lackluster. Lake's storyline has gotten better, and yes, this whole lying thing makes her a bit more interesting, but the question is, can they keep it up? Nathan and his investigation and part of the show, it's okay, but at the same time, it's not something that will make me say, hey, you need to pay AMC Plus $4.99 or whatever a month to watch this, without having any interest in The Walking Dead or some other show they have. And then with Emily, like the farce / Thomas, her storyline, which started off good, is slowly but surely going downhill to the point where, unless she rebounds in the next few episodes, I'm pretty sure she's going to hit rock bottom, and then this show as a whole is just going to be something that, in terms of a full season review, is probably going to be considered divisive for me.